I'm Brad Biley. I am our director of digital marketing over here at Haley Marketing. I'm going to get everything kicked off, but you're going to hear from these two lovely individuals on today's call as well. Becca, I want to give you the floor to share a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do here at Haley Marketing before we get started.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. So I'm Becca Stearns. I'm our Director of Creative Services. So I lead up our entire creative team. I work on and oversee our website product. I also help with all of the UI and UX on our tech products, which we'll talk a little bit about that in this presentation.
And Jessica, how about you? What is it that you do at Haley Marketing to help our team and help our clients?
Sure. Yes, thanks. My name is Jessica. I'm a front-end developer here at Haley Marketing. I've been with Haley for about 4 years, and my primary focus is building websites, but I also work on print design and other design projects in addition to that.
If you don't know who I am, I'm Brad Biley, again, our Director of Digital Marketing. I have the very fortunate opportunity to really sit down and talk with as many clients as possible on a monthly basis on our account management team. I also host a podcast over here at The Secrets of Staffing Success, two fantastic shows, Insights and Take the Stage. If you're not subscribed to that podcast, we have some fantastic conversations with some of the industry's brightest consultants and thought leaders coming out very, very soon. I would encourage you to check out The Secrets of Staffing Success. But that's not why you're here. You are here today to learn about staffing websites. And before we get started, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. I want to talk about the big problem with staffing websites as we see it at Haley Marketing. The first, gorgeous homepages that don't sell anything. Friends, yes, it is important to have a visually, aesthetically pleasing website. Yes, we want a website that looks great, but ultimately, it needs to perform. It has to do the things that your team can't do off hours. It should funnel leads for you. It should drive candidates to right pages. It should drive prospects to the right pages. We cannot simply have a gorgeous homepage that doesn't sell or convert or drive traffic to the right pages for people to take actions. Friends, I've been in the staffing and recruiting industry for 12 years now, and I understand that honestly, we make money by putting great people to work in great opportunities, right? We don't collect ad revenue by driving people to our homepages, right? We're not someone like Forbes or Inc. or CNN, Fox News, who are collecting all that ad revenue by having people on our homepages. So we need to make sure that we are converting. Second problem, career portals that kill job applications. Nothing pains me more than seeing a job application process that asks for a social security number at stage one of the process. Nothing pains me more than seeing a job application that is not mobile friendly. Nothing pains me more than seeing an application process that isn't easy for someone to navigate and apply from a desktop, a laptop, an iPhone, an Android, insert whatever it might be here. We need to make sure that we have a career portal that is easy for the applicant to take action how they want to take action, right? We might have the best thought process in mind, but at the end of the day, we are creating for the applicant, we're creating for the prospect. So we need to have a career portal in this case that drives applications, not kills applications. Another key problem we see, navigation that lacks clarity. We need to intercept every single user as they come to our website and guide them down the path so that they know what action to take next. Because inherently, if someone's clicking over from a second screen, they're going to go back to doing what they were doing. If they're looking at your website, maybe as a first-time user, they're going to leave. We know that they're not going to convert on that first opportunity. We need to guide them down the funnel as far as we can. So we need navigation that is clear, concise, and drives applications and drives applicants and prospects to ultimately take action. Another problem, messaging that doesn't drive action. I might add to this also messaging that isn't unique to your organization. Messaging that doesn't scream about your uniques, your differentiators, that doesn't scream what makes you the employer of choice in your specific area or in your specific vertical. We need to make sure that we have that messaging on our website that entices someone to take action. We talk a lot at Haley Marketing about the AIDA model: awareness, interest, desire, and action. When we have messaging on our website, we should be operating within that funnel. How are we creating awareness for the brand that we have, ultimately creating an interest and desire for someone to then take action on the site through the design that we've put together, through conversion rate optimization, through the right use of calls to action, through the right use of buttons and navigation, fly-ins, things of that nature. But ultimately, we need to have that messaging that drives action. We need to tell people what it is that we want them to do. Because inherently, again, as somebody looks at your website, think about your own web behaviors and eliminate staffing from the equation. Think about your own purchasing behaviors. You look at a product online, you think about it, you leave, you come back, you think about it, you leave. Candidates and prospects are doing the exact same thing, but we can intercept that by having the right messaging that drives action and drives people as far down the funnel as possible. Which leads us to our next problem: too much focus on too few outcomes. I've said it a million times at Haley Marketing as it relates to digital marketing and social media marketing. Every post has to have a purpose. I'm going to translate that today for web. Every page has to have a purpose. What is the desired outcome that you want every applicant or prospect to take when they see a specific page? What do you want them to do? We do not want to have too much focus on too few outcomes. And on the other side of that, we don't want to have too much focus on too many outcomes. We don't want to confuse the web visitor into saying, well, here's 7 or 8 different things that you should do. Guide them down a path, tell them the action you want to take next, and guide them to take it. We cannot have too much focus on too few outcomes or too many outcomes. Another problem we see often, the mobile experience is simply frustrating. We need to make sure that when we're building websites, when we're consuming content on the internet, when we're looking at staffing websites, the mobile experience is equally, heck, I might say, if not more important than the desktop experience. They're both equally important. And Becca and Jess, I don't want to get into a shouting match about which one is more important. That's certainly not the case. But I know my own behaviors. I would say the majority of my web browsing is on a mobile device. That's how I consume the internet. So we need to make sure, not that you're building for me, but we are building for applicants who might be looking at your career portal or your website on a mobile device. They might be looking at it while they have a couple minutes in between a commercial of a sports game, while they have a couple minutes of downtime after dinner, between events with their kids, whatever it might be. We need to make sure we have that mobile experience that isn't frustrating, but it's encouraging, it's welcoming, it's driving people to take action, and they're able to take the action they want without saying, you know what, I'm gonna have to table this for a second and get out my laptop. We want to make sure that they can do everything that they need to do on that mobile device. Another problem we see quite frequently: beautiful design and lousy performance. Friends, if you aren't backed by something like Google Analytics, if you're not looking at the data of your website to see what's working and, more importantly, what's not working, well, then you are really, really selling yourself short. With Google Analytics, with other tracking, we can see exactly what's working, what pages are driving traffic, what pages are driving people to key conversion pages, so that you're not just having something that looks great, but you actually have a machine that is working for you, not against you. Right? The way that I see it, your website is, first off, in a lot of ways, your first impression that you have with a candidate or with a prospect. It is also that off hours rep or even on hours rep, right? People should be able to work and navigate your website and take action without having to call your team for the next step. So we need a beautiful design that is also backed by impeccable performance. And we need to have the data that says, yes, these decisions we made led to this desired outcome, or hand up, it didn't do what we wanted it to do, and here's how we're going to fix it. But without data, without having those numbers, we can't make those educated decisions. Another problem: lack of ways to take action. We talked about calls to action. We talked about banners. We talked about buttons. We need to make sure that users can take action how they want to take action. And I think that's really important. When we think about the web landscape, we think about navigating key web pages. Can users take action how they want to take action? If it's a button that links to a contact form, can they then fill out that contact form? Can they take action on your career portal? Can a prospect reach out to you and request a consultation? Can they request an employee? Do we have a website that enables the user to take action when they want to take action? And it all adds up. We need to make sure that we're keeping track of bounce rates, right? We talked about looking at the data backed in your website. Are users coming to your website and leaving after looking at just one page? Or Do you have the right funnels in place that are driving people to take additional steps, take additional actions? Again, we don't just want that beautiful homepage. We don't just want the beautiful subpages. We want a website that is going to work and perform for us. It should be a sales rep. It should be a recruiter, right? If I think about the best staffing and recruiting websites, they are working like a sales rep. They're working like a recruiter, and they're doing the work that we can do on the phones too. But if a candidate, an applicant, a prospect is navigating your website, they should be able to take the actions that you want them to take directly from that site. And friends, I think it's important to note that 98% of website visitors remain anonymous. They're not filling out forms. They're not filling out contact forms. They might not call you. We're all window shopping, right? It's just a byproduct of sort of the digital landscape, right? If I'm looking at a website late at night between commercials of a game, whatever it might be, Jeopardy, you have 30 seconds, 45 seconds to browse a website. We're remaining anonymous. We've seen it at Haley Marketing where form fills, yes, we're taking the necessary actions to drive as many form fills as possible for our clients. But in a lot of ways, website visitors want to remain anonymous. So having technology like IP tracking, knowing who is looking at your website or what companies are looking at your website, knowing who is on those pages, key pages, so that your sales team can then sort of cold call, but make that a warm call because you know Becca from Haley Marketing was looking at your website 2 days ago. Great. Sounds like great information for a sales rep to go into that cold call, having a little bit of insight into what Becca might already know about our organization. So you can change that cold call script to be a little bit more descriptive without saying, hey, Becca, I saw you were on our website 2 days ago. Let's chat, right? We can be a little bit softer about it. But again, without that technology, you'll never know who was on your website. So friends, there's a lot of problems when it comes to just the average website. And we're going to talk today about what we are doing here at Haley Marketing to build the best staffing and recruiting websites for the industry. Now, before we get to that point, if your website is potentially costing you job orders or applications, we want to help. We want to offer you a free personalized review of your existing website from the team that's built over 1,200 staffing websites. Completely free, no obligation, and all you need to do is one thing. In the chat window that I know you all have found after we talked about where you're from and how old that website is, if you want a free personalized review of your existing website, all you need to do is navigate to the chat window now and type in your staffing firm's URL. From there, our team will get to work. We'll review that website, offer suggestions, give you feedback, what's working, what's not, and tell you exactly what you might be able to do to improve key pages, conversion rate optimization, and drive ultimately more applications and more job orders. So again, is your website costing you job orders? Is it potentially costing you applications? Well, the short answer is it might be, and we won't know until we take a quick look at it. But to get a free personalized review of your existing website from our team, again, all you need to do is navigate to the chat window, type in your company's URL, and our team will get to work and be in touch shortly. All right, everyone. While those messages are coming in, Becca, Jess, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to pass it over to you, and we're going to get into the live demo portion of today's Lunch with Haley. I do still see a couple notes coming through, and before Becca and Jess, I kick it your way, I also want to say in the chat, if you have any questions, please make sure you let Becca and Jess know them by using that chat window. They are our resident experts, all thing websites. Becca, Jess, I will softball those questions to you, so nothing that you need to check in the chat window. I'll keep an eye on everything. But with that, let's take a look at greatness, and let's talk about the beauty and brains that get results when it relates to staffing and recruiting websites.
All right, thanks so much, Brad, for kicking it off. You saw Brad laid out a ton of different issues for what could be going wrong with your staffing website and why you maybe aren't getting the response that you hope you're getting from your site. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at some tips, tactics, and proven methods that we use on most of the staffing websites that we create. And we're actually going to jump into a couple of live demos of sites to show you these tips and tactics in action. And everything that we're going to talk about are things that you can start to work on and implement today. So Jess is going to kick it off and talk about user experience in CRO.
Perfect. Should I share my screen? I noticed it just went away.
That's my fault.
Okay, no problem. I wasn't sure if you
That is
wanted
my
to take
fault.
over or not.
We are live, and that is still my fault. We are not sharing the screen yet.
That's the
Here
fun part of
is
being live.
here is the slide that you were hoping to see, Jess.
There we go. Awesome. All right. So thank you guys for that. Just a little bit about user experience. So we want to kind of point out when we share these live designs is just some important things that what you want to look for on your site, what you want to work on implementing. That just we know that when users come to a site, they form an opinion about your site in seconds. So that first impression is dependent heavily on how your site is structured. So what we're looking for is clean, well-organized layouts. We want to guide their eyes to key information, make them feel like they can trust you. So there's always those 3 important questions that people have when they come to a website. Who are you? What do you do? And how can I get started, right? Or why I should choose you and how can I get started? We want to keep in mind, navigation that's clear and concise. We're going to talk a little bit about mobile experience as well. And those CRO elements, those kind of clear, concise CTAs and things like that. And, we want to talk about how design sells and like Brad said, not just designs that look pretty, but, ways that we can get people to convert.
I think it's super important to design for user experience first, right? When we think about building a website, it's really not for us. And I hear this question a lot when I'm talking to clients. An individual might see a part of a website and think like, oh, well, I don't really like how that looks because I would never click that button. And I think what's important to understand is when we're looking at a website, we're not necessarily saying what's in it for me, the staffing owner, or even on our side, the marketing side of operations or the recruiter, but it's what might the applicant do? What is their experience like? What is the prospect's experience like? I paint the analogy with Amazon quite a bit. Amazon has a funny way of screwing things up for a lot of us. You can, and actually I did today, made a purchase. I expect it here by noon tomorrow, right? I have that expectation now with Amazon because of their user experience, because of the experience in working with that organization. We want to create a user experience on your website that is exactly the same so that somebody knows exactly what they're going to get in working with you. And that all comes through the list of items that Jess has just presented as well. All right, Jess, one more slide for you.
All right. So the why 98% or why 98% don't convert. The big thing is, before we dive into examples, we want to kind of understand the psychology behind it. Every visitor has drivers or reasons why they're coming to your site. So we need hooks or compelling reasons, for people to take action. So the biggest thing is that we want to eliminate those barriers, frictionless experience that prevents people from leaving your site or, getting bored or, basically we want to decrease that bounce rate. So we want to keep this in mind, as we're looking at these site examples.
This might be one of the, if in my world, and y'all please feel free to disagree, but I think this is the most important part of a website. When we think about the hook that gets somebody to take action, that gets somebody to stay on a website, that gets somebody to convert, I think it's the most important part of website design. Now, yes, there are other elements that go into it, but there is a lot to be said for a website that is pretty, that looks good, that has good messaging, but ultimately doesn't convert, that doesn't drive traffic, that doesn't get people to key conversion pages. Having the right hooks, knowing that people instinctively have short attention spans. They want to go back to what they were doing. They want to, if they found you because of Facebook or whatever it might be, go back to social media and get that dopamine that they were chasing in the first case. They want to go back. Those are all barriers. So we need to have a well-designed website that has that hook that drives people to take action. All right, next slide, 19. Some live demos. Now I can stop sharing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, now you can stop sharing
right.
and I can
was 2
I can
slides
jump in
early. Here we
first.
go. All right, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks so much for laying that foundation there. And what Brad was saying about hooks, like I definitely think that's one of the most important things that you can look for in your staffing site. How are you getting someone's attention? How are you keeping them on the site and getting them engaged? You only have a couple of seconds when someone gets to that page to pull them in and get them intrigued to continue to learn more. I actually have a friend who's a travel nurse who I asked a bunch of questions because she's a frequent user of staffing sites. And she told me, like, if it's not a good experience, if I can't figure out in the first couple of sections what they do, I'm going to jump and go somewhere else. So it's so important. All right. So we're going to take a look at a bunch of different websites. I'm going to show a few, then Jess is going to show a few. The first one we're going to take a look at is WCL Group. This is a site that just went live. It's brand new. It's a beautiful site that our team designed. A couple things I want to highlight. So we talked a bit about navigation and poor navigation and how that it's a barrier to people if they can't figure out where they're going. So this one has a very nice navigation, and you'll see we're all used to that standard drop down. This particular one, it's got a little bit more to it, a little bit more design. It's visually really nice. You can clearly see which are the top level pages, sub pages. You can see exactly where you might want to go. The other thing I want to highlight on this particular menu is it's also a great place to throw just an extra little call to action. Like if somebody, we work in the business of people and staffing companies, and some people, they don't want to read everything that's on your site. They just want to talk to someone. So this is another really good place where you could have that extra little call to action and get them to talk to you. And you can see that it's changed a little bit. We'll adjust that language depending on who we're talking to. So that employers is a little bit different than what you might see in career seekers. So this is just a really nice way of laying out your menu. So it's super clear what you're doing and what you are selling. So
Becca,
some
what's
of the things I
interesting
want to,
there,
oh, go ahead.
that goes to a mail to link as well. So if you hover over, it was career seekers and then contact, you don't have to click it because it'll bounce up in your Outlook and kind of mess up the live here. But the bottom left there, I saw the mail to link, right? So this specific client, they're not driving that contact to a contact form. They're actually getting people off of the website to take action sort of privately via email. I don't see that often, and I like that approach a lot.
Yeah, it's not something you see often. There's definitely pros and cons to it. Like some people
Yeah.
do prefer that. Let me just go and write an email. The con to it is that it's harder to track. Yeah, we could put a code on it to track the button click, but
Mhm.
we can't track the thank you pages. We can't track the form fills. So we can't see as well that conversion. So it's kind of pros and cons in ways what's more important to you when deciding how you want people to reach out and the action that you want on the site.
Love the example.
All right, keep looking at this one. So something else I really like on this one, we talked about those hooks. And we talked a little bit about hierarchy on the page. So right off the bat here, what I really love is this just such a subtle use of color in the headlines that just differs it enough to draw your attention in to get you to read. And then with the hierarchy on the page, we have this bigger text. We want to guide the user through the page exactly. Brad was talking a little bit about, the outcomes and, think about how you want people to interact, where you want them to end up. The way that we lay out the text on the page, the headlines will draw them down to the calls to action that we have on the site and where we want to drive them. This site also has just some subtle like animation, which I really like, which also is that hook. It doesn't take away from the content on the site, but it just makes it a little bit more interesting. It's very modern as well. Something else on this particular site. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about tech integration in a second, but being able to pull in your jobs, feature jobs directly onto your site is a great way to showcase what you do, not only for candidates to really quickly come down to this section, see some jobs that might reflect what they do, and then jump open to them, right into them, but also for clients coming to the site, they can really quickly see actual job titles that you are placing and see what you do. So it's a really good double feature, and then it will go right to your career portal and start that application process with the candidate. And then the other thing I want to highlight here is not only do we have the actual jobs, if somebody comes and a candidate comes and they see, and none of these really reflect what I'm doing, or I'm not quite ready to apply. Well, we've got some softer, some other CTAs here so that there are different paths for different candidates. So one of the things you want to think about is different steps in the marketing funnel, different steps in that buyer process and the candidate process, where you can drive them to different parts of the site. You can get them to just submit the resume. You can get them to just browse openings. You can drive them to a specific job. And on the employer side, you can drive them to request talent, or you can have a softer and drive them to content if somebody's not quite ready to buy, but you want to keep them engaged.
Becca,
All
that
right.
featured job section, while we're on it, that might be one of
Yep.
my favorite features of our career portal. I was working with a client just last week who wanted to feature specific jobs on key pages of their specialty pages. So they place different healthcare types of professionals, right? Nurses, they place some home care, they do a little bit of um, more, I guess, non-clinical healthcare. So on their website, what they were able to do then is segment the featured jobs section on each page because of how our career portal functions. They were able to sort by keyword, they were able to sort by category. I love that. So that when a job seeker or even a prospect looks at one of those pages, they can see the featured job as it relates to them, right? Consumer goods does this all the time. If you're looking for golf clubs, you should see specific golf clubs that tailor to you, right? The website sort of knows what it is that you're looking for. And I love that we're able to do that on our sites with our career portal. I love that functionality.
Yeah, and it allows you, and I'll talk a little bit in the tech integration section. I don't want to give too much away, but
Sure.
the ability to be able to tailor the experience to the specific user, if you know who's coming to your site, to make sure that you're serving them the most relevant content, will always create a better experience for that specific user. So being able to do stuff like that, if on these areas of expertise, it would be great to have a specific featured job section, as you mentioned, Brad, that
Yeah.
is specific to that industry. All right, jump over to another site. Take a look at TMD staffing. So this is another good example, a little bit different, of a hook that could be on that homepage of your site. This one uses a video, which still is a very good way to draw attention in. It's just that little bit of movement that keeps you engaged in the site a little bit longer to take a look at it. And then this one, I really wanted to highlight the calls to action and the fly in. So yeah, it's a bit of an old school tactic, but it does still work. Fly-ins, exit pop-ups, welcome pop-ups, because you get to the site, you start to read, but then all of a sudden something comes in and it draws your attention. So it's a great way to share a very specific offer, a very specific, if you're looking, in this case, maybe you're looking for candidates and you need roles, you can feature that here. It's also a great one that you can change out. So when the market shifts, you can just switch that out really easily and target clients instead. The other thing with this particular site is it is a very bold site, and it is the contrast between dark and light just makes it really easy to read and really easy to kind of go through. It's another great example of featured jobs. And then also I wanted to highlight this one because the other one didn't have a search job widget on it, but this one does. So you can write on the page search. You don't actually have to navigate somewhere else. You can start that right from this page. And then again, that kind of softer CTA, if this isn't quite working for you, there's somewhere else for you to go. All right. And then the last one, I have a couple other sites, but let's take a look at Staff Plus and then I'll hand it over to Jess. So this is a smaller site, but one of the thing I really wanted to highlight on this one is the way that we did their messaging and the way that we wrote their site. So not only do you want to take a look at the design, the navigation, but how are you writing the site? Because you have this challenge with websites and just digital in general, where we want to write for SEO, but we also need to write for the human who's actually going to be using that site and finding the ways to balance that. So you'll see in a lot of our sites, some ways we do that are varying, our headlines, having a smaller headline and a bigger headline. So one maybe is more targeted to SEO, the other one's more to pull that human into the page. And then the other thing here is versus the other one sites we looked at, where here we have find work, find talent. This one is a little bit more conversational. So I'm looking for jobs, I'm looking for talent, and being able to kind of break that down to how people speak and kind of just adjusting that messaging for how you might want to communicate with your audience. All right, I have more to share, but I will let Jess take the floor for a little bit and share what she has to share. Oh, Jess, you're muted.
There we go. All right, I think we're good. Okay, thank you for that, Becca. I'm going to actually show a couple of sites that are slightly different from our standard staffing company. These are two more niche websites. The first one that we have here is Gibson Consultants. This is a really great example of industry specialization, and how messaging can really, um, strengthen their, impact on the user. So, the the big thing here is, with their headings, and their color scheme and their design and everything, it's a very different color scheme with these bright colors. It really stands out from your traditional healthcare site. But as you can see, the first thing when you get here, we're having these CTAs, these three most important ones, above the fold immediately when people come to the site. Our messaging here, it tells you exactly what they're doing, and it answers those big questions. Who are you? What do you do? Why and how? Here's our what section. Sorry, I thought I heard something. So you'll also notice a really strong emphasis on relationships and trust with this client. They are a well-established, more boutique firm, so they don't have a traditional job board. Their primary goal is to get people to contact them so that they can personally reach out and build that relationship. And it's a more tailored relationship with their clients. And that's the one of the big draws for them is this trust aspect of things. So if we click in to see full list, they have a large client list. And this is a great way to just show people that they're established. Look at all these people we've helped, and we can help you too. And at the bottom of every page, we have our clear calls to action.
I love this. I will say there are probably the majority of people on today's call who are thinking I would never share my client list publicly. But friends, I think this is fantastic. It's a credibility booster. Your candidates know that you are working with very credible organizations. Prospects understand that you can do the job that you're saying you can do. And let's be honest. I mean, if you are in healthcare staffing and you only work in Buffalo, New York, and Becca's staffing firm is also in healthcare staffing and she works in Buffalo, New York, you're already all calling on the same prospects or clients, right? So that book of business is publicly available via google.com, right? If we look at that, I love everything about this page. And Jess, I've been saying we should be doing more of this for a really long time. Walk us through, and Becca, maybe you can add some thoughts too and some color to this, but how did we convince the client to add this client list? Or was this something that they came up with and they said they wanted to do?
Yeah, this was actually something that they've been building on for a very, very long time. So this was something that they wanted to share.
I love
Yeah,
it.
and I can jump in
Yeah, please.
on this as well. Just for what Brad said and what Jess said, putting your client list is a really great way to show social proof. I didn't get into it, and Jess might, but showing testimonials and stats and proof that what you do has worked in the past helps build trust with the user. So they will be more likely to contact you, to reach out to you, to apply to a job. They need to see that, hey, this is a real company. It's trusted by other people. Okay, I guess I can trust them too.
Yeah, I had Tom Erb on the podcast a little while ago, and he had mentioned that there's really like this 5-tier hierarchy as it relates to vendor relationships, right? And a lot of the industry we're seen as a necessary evil. Our goal is to becoming that trusted advisor all the way at the top of the list. My thought, and I don't know Gibson Consultants, but my thought is they are a trusted advisor for an overwhelming majority of the companies that you see on this screen. They're not a necessary evil. And I think when you get to be that trusted advisor, well, then yes, you can publish things like this because you're not going to lose a client just because your competitor finds out their name. If that is the case, then you are operating like a necessary evil. And we as an industry need to do everything that we can to position ourselves as that trusted workforce advisor with our clients, have strong relationships so that a published list like this doesn't threaten the business at all. It adds credibility and helps us grow our business. I see some claps in the chat. Love that chat. Jess, go ahead. Continue, please.
Yeah, I think trust is as important, if not, dare I say, more important as, calls to action, only because, when I go to a website, if I go to a website, it looks outdated, they very little information, I want to get in touch with them, but I'm a millennial, so I don't want to pick up the phone. A lot of, my generation and
Mhm.
younger, you know, are less and less likely to call someone. So the first thing I want to do is go to that contact form. But I cannot tell you how many contact forms I filled out for companies that they just don't they don't know how to check their notifications.
Yep.
They're not getting them. And so especially if I'm going to a website that just doesn't look like it's being maintained, I already don't trust them. So, having those trust factors, like Becca was saying, stats, testimonials, client lists, just showing that you are credible. And then on top of that, having a design site that is clearly showing that you're maintaining it and that you're paying attention to your online and care about your online presence. It's going to make people feel a lot more comfortable or more compelled to go ahead and fill out those conversion points, whether it's, the application, contact form, requesting employees, whatever it is. So those things are all kind of intertwined and super, super important and becoming more so as time goes on. So I'm going to jump over to my next site. This is another more niche, a more niche company, and they're also brand new. So that is a little bit of a hurdle when you're brand new. You don't have quite that trust element. So your design can really speak volumes, and your messaging. Those are the things you want to focus on at first. And then you definitely want to build those trust elements as time goes on. So this is Stern. Their design, their color scheme, everything. They're a tech site. The purple, usually when you think technology, you're thinking of a lot of people use blue and gray, blue and black. So they have this this purple color scheme. I feel like it's very different, but it also feels very techy. And the same thing here, this messaging right away, different process, better result. It's not just a blah opening, you know, you know what I mean? Their H1s, these primary messaging can just be very boring, and it doesn't really speak to the user. Again, when people come to websites, they skim. So they're not going to read and look and comb through all these tiny little text. These headings are very big and they're very precise. So we're answering, again, those primary questions. Who are you? What do you do? This messaging that stands out. And at the end, we have our conversion points. So, sorry, I just lost my page here. There we go.
I can jump in real quick while
Thank
Jess
you.
is looking for a
Yeah,
spot. But as she
my screen
mentioned,
froze on me.
the hierarchy and how people skim sites, part of the reason that hierarchy is so important is so that somebody can come to your site and they can glance and really quickly see and answer those questions that Jess laid out. And it's really important. But you still need that bigger body copy, but it doesn't have to be on the homepage. That homepage you really want to design for the user coming to the site. But then on the specialties pages, jobs pages, location pages, you can get even nitty grittier into that SEO and longer content that's really good for optimizing your site.
Exactly. So yeah, I think those were just the primary points for my sites. So I am actually going to turn it back over to who's up next? Becca. Brad, you want to take over with your share again?
Yep, I can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
And because I'll be honest, I was fixated on watching the presentation. I got to find the share button. So here we go. And we're going to share and talk about AI and tech integration.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite topics right now because I work on a lot of UI and UX on our tech products, and I see the power of being able to integrate these tools into your website. And I'm super excited for what it means about the future of websites. Some of it we can't do right now, but it's will be coming as AI continues to evolve and evolve quickly. So we talked a little bit about the career portal and how you can integrate that into your site. So the big reason to make sure that you are well integrated with the text that you have behind the scenes into your website, particularly that career portal, it will allow your website to become an even more powerful tool. So it can almost work on its own. You don't need to then follow up with everybody. People can go through and they can get right to those jobs. They it makes your website more than just a brochure saying, here's what we do. Somebody can actually interact with it. They can apply right on your website. They don't need to go somewhere else. They can fill out the forms. And one of the other big pieces with our career portal is that you can integrate it with your ATS. So you can make sure that all of those applicants are getting back into your ATS, makes your workflow even better as well, so that your website, again, is working for you rather than you having to work for it. So AI, there's a couple different places this can come into play into your website. So on the career portal, since we're talking about that, our career portal is integrated with AI. There's powerful tools like AI job matching, which allows users to input their resume and find jobs that match their skill sets. And then the other way around, it works as well. We'll match job candidates to the jobs that you have open. And that keeps candidates engaged longer on your site because they're seeing relevant jobs more frequently. And another way to integrate AI, we have in AI powered chatbots on your site that can ingest all of the content on your website and almost act as a sales person on your site, answering questions that people have and then feeding them the right information based on all of that content that's on your website. So it really allows your website to go from something that somebody's just looking at to something that they can really interact with, get the answers to their questions, and get everything that they're looking for really quickly. The other thing that Brad and I alluded to before was that really personalized experience. And I think that's where AI is really exciting and where we're still trying to figure out the best ways to integrate that into your site. But essentially, if we know who is coming to your site through the IP tracking, through other tracking on your site, or what they happen to be looking at, we can then feed them very specific messaging using AI to help write it and AI to help adjust what you're seeing so that you're serving them a very personalized experience and they're seeing exactly what it is they came to look for. And really all of the technology and the big piece here, you want to make sure it's integrated seamlessly. You want to make sure that it's helping reduce friction because you can integrate it in a way where it then becomes significantly harder to use. So you want to make sure that you're really careful and you really plan out how you're going to use it so that it reduces that friction and you don't create any extra complexity in your site. All right. And everything we talked about today, is all backed by results from real clients. We've built, as Brad mentioned, that 1,200 some odd staffing websites over the years. And these are just, you can see by the numbers on the screen, like just making changes to your site or updating your site and making sure it's following best practices, making sure it's up to date with current trends, current technology. It will allow you to see better results so that, again, your website works for you. You can get the job applications, you can get form fills, you can get more organic traffic. So with making sure that your SEO is working on your site, making sure all of those drivers that Jess mentioned, everything that's getting people to your site is working as well. And then making sure that user flow, you'll be able to get real results that will convert into actual applications and job orders.
Yeah, what I love about this is not only do we see real results from real clients, right? We have the data to support it. We have the case studies on our website. We have the content to support it. You can certainly check out haleymarketing.com for more of the data on the websites that we've built specifically in some of our case studies. But we'd love to see it work for you as well. And we'd love to track with Google Analytics and have benchmark data for where you're at right now and where you are in 3 months, 6 months because of a new web experience, because of new conversion rate optimization and CRO tactics and some of those best practices. When we launch a website, it's not just a set it and forget it type of marketing tactic anymore, right? We need to consistently look at the data, look at what's working, look at, I think in a lot of ways, more importantly, what's not working and say, listen, yes, it's a brand new site, we think we got it right. But when we look at the data, users are going this way instead of this way, and we need to make those changes. I had just had a great call with a client today about exactly that. We built out a request a consultation page for this specific client. We were working with them. I actually want to talk about this real quick, and we hadn't planned on talking about this, so sorry for kind of derailing where we're at right now, Becca. But we had talked about how the request an employee form was very direct. It's very committal. When you're requesting an employee, it's an order form. So for this specific client, we built out a request a consultation page. We softened the language. We had less forms for that individual on the other end of the form to fill out. Very softer language, just about, hey, we're not sure, and yes, the copy is cleaner than this, but we're not sure exactly what it is that you're looking for. Here are some ways that we might be able to help though, and if any of this interests you, let's at least have the conversation. What we learned though is a lot of people are looking at the page, but they're not converting, right? It's less than 1% conversion rate on that page. We would never know that if we didn't have the data to show us that, so that now our team, I think there's 7 of us on that project, can say, listen, okay, we're getting people there. The form is driving people the right way. The website is driving people. Now, what can we do to increase the conversion rate of that request a consultation page to go from 1% to 2%, 3%, because that's sizable ROI for the client. So this data matters. And that's one of the best things that I think we're doing over here at Haley is we're not just building pretty websites, right? We're looking at every single thing that we're doing and we're saying, okay, what is happening behind the scenes and how do we fix it? How do we make it better, faster, stronger? All right. Sorry to derail, but I had to share that. Final thoughts. Figuring out where to start because we shared a lot of stuff. We started with what we're seeing is wrong with a lot of staffing recruiting websites. We shared a lot of what's working for staffing and recruiting websites. We shared some of our best examples in terms of a live demo. So Becca, when we think about final thoughts, and where the individuals on today's call should get started, help them figure out where they could get started.
Yeah, and I actually want to acknowledge that story. I know you derailed and it wasn't in our plan, but that was a fantastic story. Like we
Yeah.
build lots of sites and we have all the data, but every now and again, people don't behave exactly as you want them. Your website really should be a living, breathing thing that grows as you grow and changes as you change, as the market changes, and you should constantly be making updates. So what should you do now? We shared lots of great tips and tactics. How do you know if your site is actually performing for you? Take a look at your site yourself. The best first thing to do is to go to your site and walk through it. Look at the homepage, look at the messaging. What does it look like? Are the CTAs clear? Would you know, having never seen this site before, where to go and what to do if you were a candidate or a client or a prospect coming to your site for the very first time? Go through your career portal, see how long it actually takes you to find a job and fill out an application. If it takes too long, most people are going to be jumping from that application and they'll go somewhere else because it's too hard for them to fill out. So take a look at all of the forms, the blog page, thank you pages, every piece of your site and see what's working, what's not working, and where you get stuck yourself. And take a step back from, you've probably seen your site a few times. Take a look at it with fresh eyes. If you had never seen it before, what might somebody do?
One thing that I also say, Becca, just to add to this, have someone who you know, like, and trust, heck, even love, go through your website and don't watch them navigate the site. Watch them navigate the site and read their body language. When do they get frustrated? Do they randomly lock their feet around their chair because they're trying to ground themselves? Do they start to scratch their head because they can't fathom the thought of giving you their social security number when they apply to a job? Read their body language. So again, don't watch them navigate the site. Watch actually them navigate your site and watch where there's friction in their process. Have them do it on desktop. Have them do it on a laptop. Have them do it on mobile. So yes, absolutely go through it yourself. But have somebody you know, love, go through it as well and watch them navigate it. And most importantly, watch where they get frustrated. Because I'll tell you this, if a spouse is frustrated with your staffing website, just think about what an applicant who doesn't know you is feeling about your staffing website. All right, Becca, we had you talk about some final thoughts. You have another slide here and I interrupted, so go for it.
Oh, you're all good. I think Jess was going to talk through this one.
Perfect.
Yep.
Jess, here you go.
This one is going to be me. So, yes, another way you want to really start taking a look at things to figure out how your site's performing is the data behind it. So I think Brad mentioned, Google Analytics, making sure you have that installed and actually looking at that, how much traffic is coming to your site. Where is it coming from? What is your bounce rate looking like? All that data is going to really give you some good clues as to where you're losing people and where you need to focus on. You know, your entry pages, your exit pages, how are those built? Do they have clear messaging, clear calls to action? You know, again, with the exit pages, the forms just being simple and softer and not, you know, a big giant, you know, 3-page form that people have to fill out, and just make sure that it's easy for people to get through. And then another thing you can start to look at when it comes to getting data on your site, and this is a little bit, it's pretty interesting actually. There are services out there, Hotjar, Crazy Egg, there's another one, I don't remember what it is. But anyway, you can go to these services and actually install them onto your website, and you can physically watch people interact with your site. You can see what's being clicked on most. If there's something you think people are seeing and should be capturing attention and they're just not, you can, you know, take another look at that, figure out why, what do we need to change? Where are we losing people? And how can we get people to stay on the site and follow the path that you've designed to your conversion points, to ultimately get more leads and more clients.
I just want to add another place to start too. Look at what content is performing very, very well. We see typically older blog content performs better than newer content. And that's not to say that newer articles are poor or poorly written, but as content becomes indexed by Google, it has more search visibility, more people see it, right? It's sort of just this rolling snowball effect, right? Where kind of like the Looney Tunes, or whatever it might be, the snowball rolls down the hill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's kind of how older content starts to perform. The challenge with that is, let's say you published an article in 2022. Great article. The content might be great, but let's look at calls to action. Let's look at the funnel of that page. Let's look at the sidebar of that page. If every page should have a purpose, what do you want the applicant or prospect to do when they get to that page? Your new destination in June of 2025 might be different than what you wanted them to do 3 years ago. So start by looking at some of those top pieces of content and say, okay, we know that these are great entry pages for our website. We look at the data, we know that a lot of people are coming here because of this content, because of these top 3 or 5 articles. Let's go in there and re-optimize them, nurture them, do a little bit of work to them to make sure that we're funneling traffic to the right places as of 2025. All right, next slide.
So if all else fails, if you've looked at your site yourself, if you had a friend look at it, if you've looked at the data, but you're still struggling to figure out where to start, ask people. Ask your salespeople and recruiters what kind of questions that they're getting. How can you clarify that on your website and make it easier to find the answers to those questions? Reach out to your clients and your candidates. You get that actual user feedback that is so helpful and so important in really making sure that your website is working for the people who are coming to your site and are interacting with it. Get their insights. Where are they getting stuck? And if you have some really good trusted clients and candidates, I'd actually recommend doing the same thing that Brad suggested. You know, hop on a call with them, hop on Zoom. If you have the opportunity to do it in person, even better. Watch their body language. Ask them to talk out loud and talk through what it is that they're doing, where they're getting confused, where they're getting lost, where they're a little unsure. But also ask them what they really like, what's working really well. Are there ways that you can do that elsewhere on your site so that it's working really well for the people who are actually coming to your site? And yeah, I kind of jumped ahead on the last bullet, but observe them. How are they reacting to all of the content?
Sorry, Becca.
You're
I
all
didn't mean to
good.
jump ahead. I really didn't. Sometimes my wheels just get turning and it's hard to stop. I apologize. Before we get out of here, and before I go through some of these great offers that we have for the people that are still hanging on, I know we're close to 3 o'clock Eastern, and that's typically when we wrap up lunch with Haley. If you can stick around for just 5 or 10 more minutes, I would appreciate it. We can also answer your questions in the chat window. We'll stay on as long as you want to stay on. Becca, Jess, before we kick it over and we kind of go through all of this, any last minute items that you wish we would have said that maybe we didn't get out in the presentation? And if not, that's fine too, but I want to make sure that you have the floor to kind of wrap things up one more time.
I don't think I have anything. I feel like we pretty much covered everything.
Sounds great. Becca?
Yeah, I mean, I just reiterate, like, take a look at your current site, see what's working well, see what's not working well, where you can make improvements. Take all of the tactics and everything that we talked about today and see, are there ways that we can make improvements to our site that might help us see a little bit more conversion and more response from our website.
So friends, earlier in this presentation, I shared the tip that if you wanted us to review your website, all you had to do was put your URL in the chat window. I will again offer that same piece of, not advice, but I will offer that same offer to you. If you would like us to review your website and give you some suggestions based on the team, backed by the team who has put together over 1,200 staffing and recruiting websites, all you need to do is put your URL in the chat now. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you go to haleymarketing.com/9signs to find out the 9 signs your staffing website is failing, and more importantly, what to do about it. From there, if you want to submit a request for us to review your site, you can do it there as well. But to make it easier for you, you can also just put your URL in the chat. We do have one question in the chat window before I get to a couple other offers. I'm going to come back to the question. We have our special offers to help you get the best savings of 2025. We're offering $1,000 off of our direct marketing solutions for lead generation, free startup on digital marketing services like search engine optimization and LinkedIn advertising, and big savings on lead tracking with our sales funnel automation solution. They're proven strategies to help you get more leads and close more deals. Friends, these deals and special offers end June 30th. So if you're interested in learning more about them, you can take out a mobile device and scan that QR code on your screen, or you can go to haleymarketing.com/staffing-sales to learn a bit more about our special offers from 2025. And while I got you, I got to tell you one more time about the Secrets of Staffing Success podcast over here at Haley Marketing. For the last 6 years, I've had the fortunate opportunity to run Haley Marketing's podcast. We have 2 great shows under the Secrets of Staffing Success umbrella. The first is Insights, where I get to sit down with members of Team Haley to find out what's working in digital and recruitment marketing. On Take the Stage, I sit down with industry consultants and thinkers and thought leaders to bring conference caliber speakers and their talks to the podcast every other week. Having a ton of fun lately with both shows, and I hope you'll subscribe to those episodes, or if you've already subscribed and you like the show, you can put that in the chat too. I'd love to know what you think about the podcast. I'd love to know even who I should be talking to next on Take the Stage. So feel free to use the chat window and share your thoughts on what you think about Secrets of Staffing Success as well. If you haven't signed up for Smart Ideas Weekly, again, you could scan the QR code with your mobile device. That'll take you to a landing page. Or you go to haleymarketing.com/smartideas weekly. This is our weekly newsletter delivered every Saturday morning, where our co-CEO David Cerns or a guest member, a guest writer of Haley Marketing, pens an article specifically for the newsletter talking about what is working in digital marketing and genuinely how to drive more applications and more job orders. I will tell you, and David did not pay me to say this, and even if he did, I'm going to say he didn't pay me to say this. It is the one weekly newsletter that I read every single week. And I don't subscribe to many newsletters, but this is one that I read every single Saturday. So friends, haleymarketing.com/smartideasweekly. Phenomenal insights directly from one of our co-CEOs, but also the rest of the team. I share one every quarter, so heck, subscribe just so you get my newsletter every once a quarter. And we have a couple webinars coming up for you. We have a product demo on June 24th, where we're going to talk about our career portal and what's new in 2025. Smarter candidate experience and higher apply rates. That's what we're all looking for, right? You go to you go to lunchwithhaley.com to subscribe for that. We also have a bonus webinar coming June 26th on demand generation part 2, which will be hosted by David Cerns, our co-CEO, and will feature Tom Erb, Mark Winter, and Dan Morey. We had those guys on a couple months ago, and the conversation was so well received, we said, hey, let's bring them back for another conversation. So on June 26th, you'll see David, Tom, Mark Winter, and Dan Morey talking about how to drive demand for staffing services in 2025. Again, you go to lunchwithhaley.com to sign up for that. So with that, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put those in the chat window. We did have one from Christina Williams come through, Becca and Jess, that I want to toss your way. What are some tips for creating a better client journey versus associate journey as the focus shifts from B2B to B2C?
Yeah, that is probably one of the most difficult things when it comes to staffing websites because we have these two very different audiences, that B2B client, prospect, associate journey, and then
Yeah.
that B2C candidate journey. But there are different ways that you can make sure that you're accounting for both journeys. As you saw in a lot of the sites that we showed, right from the bat, we are asking the user to self-identify, where you have hire talent or looking for work. And you have those different experiences to drive them to different sections of the site, where then you'll have more tailored information. The other thing I can do is look at your business and what are your business goals. If you really are looking for candidates, you can tailor that to put more emphasis and more focus on that candidate journey versus the client, vice versa. If you're more focused on needing job orders, and just switch up that messaging a little bit from the top and put a little more emphasis on that first CTA for that particular audience. Jess, do you want to hop in with anything else?
Yeah, no, I think you know, it is like you said, it's really difficult when we're always trying to you know, we have that dual audience, right? So um you know, the biggest thing that when you go to one of our sites, the first thing is that's the first question that we ask you. So are you a job seeker? Are you an employer? But when you're shifting to that B2C audience, you know, giving more of a focus as soon as people come to your site on, you know, searching, make that very high up, because a lot of our sites, since that we don't know which audience you are first, we'll put that a little bit farther down. So, you know, move that up, make sure that that's, you know, those featured jobs that we talked about earlier. Just really highlighting, making it easy for people to see, you know, what positions you have open, and you know, just making it easy for people to start looking for jobs above all else. I think that's really the primary thing to do.
Yeah, the only thing that I might add to it is just having the courage to change your website and knowing that right now the goal might be X and in January the goal might be Y, right? To kind of paint the analogy of consumer goods, right now it is 75 in Buffalo. Any Buffalo clothing organization should be selling polos. They should be selling short sleeve shirts. They should be selling shorts. We know that Buffalo is coming in probably a week and a half. So, or I'm sorry, winter is coming in probably a week and a half. So when that happens, we should be selling coats, we should be selling pants, we should be selling hoodies. The website for consumer goods changes, right? Based on seasonal demand. You see sites like Under Armour and Nike do this very well. Come football season, we're talking about buying football gear. Come golf season, we're talking about buying golf gear. So when we think, who had the question? Christina. When we think about your website, what's your goal right now? Is it driving more orders or is it driving more applications? If right now you have more orders than you know what to do with, okay, let's flip the homepage. Let's change the script a little bit to drive more applicant flow. Let's have the courage to do that. If you have more applicants than you know what to do with and you need orders, let's flip that script a little bit and make it more inviting for prospects to take action. But I think Becca and Jessica hit the nail on the head. You still need to have the funnel where people can take action how they want to take action, right? Users should be able to feel welcome in your website and in that environment. So they still need to have a home. And ultimately, you need to be able to drive them to that with your smart navigation, with the right calls to action, with the right funnels. See if there's any other questions. Friends, I think that's it. I'm going to ask one more time. Any last minute questions that we might be able to address for you on today's Lunch with Haley? If not, I'm going to say it one time. I'm over the chat not telling us that we were live. I had to sit on it for a while. We were live for about 20 minutes and no one thought to tell us. I got a couple Slack messages about it, but I wasn't checking Slack. So chat, I'm no longer frustrated with you. It was a fantastic webinar. Becca, Jess, thank you for sharing all of your insights with us. I appreciate you letting me take lead here and guide the ship, but truly I learned a ton listening to both of you. I know our guests did as well today. So for all of us at Haley Marketing, thank you for watching another episode of Lunch with Haley. We will see you in June for our product demo on the career portal, and we will see you at the end of the month for Demand Generation Part 2 with David Cerns, Dan Morey, Mark Winter, and Tom Erb. Again, for all of us at Haley Marketing, we appreciate you. Take care and be good to each other.